Second down and 8 from the 42. Long count. Green, quick handoff to Jeanty. Went right, cut back to the left, middle of the field, to the 50, to the 40. Jeanty sheds tacklers to the 30, to the 20. High steps into the end zone, and the Broncos take the lead. Maiden waiting for the snap. Gets it. It's going to be a quarterback run.
Fumble.
And Maiden knocked the ball, has the ball knocked out of his hands. Boise State scrounging for the ball. Everybody pointing, saying that Boise State thinks they have the football, and they do. Boise State with its second fumble recovery of the game. Green gets the snap, fakes it to Jeanty. He's going to run to the left, being chased by Moon. He has too much speed and will score.
Welcome into Jay Sports Bar. Once again, Jay Tuss alongside Shane Williams-Rhodes. I am on location this week. We don't have the cozy confines of the KTVB podcast studio this week, Shane. You're rocking it from your home. I'm in Memphis currently, but we're still going to do the best we can to get everybody hyped and ready to go for this Memphis game coming up here. And I'm just curious, your takes on this really quick, Shane. When you guys got the chance to travel out east, I know this game is a little bit closer to your home state of Texas, and for that matter, about 15, 16 players currently on the roster getting to play closer to home. How much does it mean to you guys to get out, play in the central time zone, and have a nice little short travel for your family to come watch you guys play ball?
It's big because obviously if you just look at our offense, the leading receiver, your leading running back, and your starting quarterback all are from Texas. So having those guys be from that state, they'll have a lot of people that travel to Memphis to come watch play this week.
I know Talon was also saying that he appreciates the weather over here. Going to be about 90 degrees, a little bit of humidity at kickoff, so it's going to feel like he's right back at home. We begin, though, with talking about the San Diego State game, a big victory for the Broncos to open up conference play out on the road. They are now 1-0, 7 more Mountain West Conference victories to go until they can guarantee themselves a chance at a Mountain West Conference championship. What did you think about the game and the momentum that they were able to build down in San Diego, Shane?
I felt like we started slow. First 2 drives were a little rough. But eventually, we fell back on our identity, which is run the offense through the best back in the country. So we got to that, and as we did, he pulled it out for us per usual. Playmakers make plays.
I'm sorry, did you say best back in the country, Shane?
Best back in the country. I believe he's number 1 in all-purpose yards.
Hey, if stats mean anything, he is number 1 in the country in yards from scrimmage with 692. He is tied for first in total touchdowns with 8. Ashton Jeanty has been an absolute monster so far this season. We're going to get to him in a moment, a little bit later on, about how Eric McAllister is making yet another step to prove that he is an all-around wide receiver. We're going to talk about Taylor Green, the good, the bad, the ugly, all that stuff. And he certainly made some winning plays, but had some growing pains, I would say, along the way in that game against San Diego State. And then finally, Boise State's senior leader of their defense, pretty banged up right now. So how will they kind of navigate things if he is unavailable to go, not only in Memphis, but we'll see here. I'm not really exactly sure on his status, to be honest with you, but walking off the field, DJ Schramm was in a sling, and I can only hope that he is a quick healer because this Boise State football team needs him. But we do begin with Ashton Jeanty, and I got to tell you, Shane, I've been here for a while now, and I've covered this team. I've covered a lot of stellar individual performances. I remember a game where you had 14 catches. Was that Utah State?
14 would have been Ole Miss.
Oh, Ole Miss. I take that back. Jay Ajayi also had double-digit catches that game. You also had a monster game down at Ole Miss, or excuse me, at Utah State, though, didn't you? Is that 100 yards?
I think that one might have been like 11.
11. Okay, 11 catches. All right. Well, that might have been your career high at that point in time because you were a little bit younger. Yeah. But this kid, I mean, he continues to exceed expectations. It's really funny because, going into the season, they thought they'd have a really healthy running back room, George Halani, and they were using Ashton in motion a ton, trying to find ways to get him the ball, but not necessarily always lined up as that traditional running back. And now he has had that role the last few games, and he has been nothing short of phenomenal, and a guy that you really can't arguably say is the best running back in the country when you look at his production right now, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for the last few weeks, but my comparison is it's Jay Ajayi in Jeremy McNichols' role.
Man,
that's what it is. He can do what J Mac could do, and he runs like Jay. It's just it's a great combination to have.
So J-Mac had the versatility. Jay had the brute strength, I would say, although, J-Mac brought it in his own way too. He's right now, he is absolutely in the discussion for a Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year, especially when you consider his first game in conference play. He racked up 258 yards, first 200-yard rushing game since Alexander Madison cracked 200 yards. That was back in 2018, and well, things are working out okay for Alexander, considering he's the starting running back for the Minnesota Vikings and coming off a 90-plus yard rushing performance this last weekend. What is the ceiling for Ashton Jeanty? Like, where does he go from here? Because sometimes these young guys, they have success, and I think Ashton's a really confident kid, but he's also incredibly humble. It's like he's almost dealing or figuring out how to deal with his success as it's happening to him in real life. So you were a guy that got on the field early. Do you have any advice to him on how to handle this as he continues to get more and more attention, not only from opposing defenses, but from, media outlets across the country?
The biggest tip that I give, that you don't really take serious when you're, at 18 and 19, when you're playing, is take care of his body off the field, because he's getting hit 23 times a game on average, probably. And those will start, adding up. He's taking some hits. So, and for him, the kind of runner he is, he's taking like 3 or 4 hits a play. So
right.
It's a little bit different than most.
I think
but taking that seriously, though, it could change things.
Right. James Montgomery, Boise State's running backs coach, kind of equated it to, it's like he's going through 20 to 30 car wrecks a game. And I mean, I know that might sound extreme to some people listening or watching this podcast, but the physical toll of running between the tackles, 300-pound human beings. And as you said, his ability to just kind of stay on his legs and ping pong off of people and hurdle and stiff arm, and he's the total package. But man, he really does go through quite a bit of wear and tear. And I'll say this, like he's the type of candidate that, you probably are going to see in the yellow jersey at practice for a majority of the season from here on out. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's not healthy, but it's about keeping him healthy, I would assume. So we've seen that in past with running backs, Jay Ajayi, even George, when he was getting kind of some heavy workload and them trying to preserve his health. They don't really need to worry about, they need to worry about practice. Don't get me wrong here, but there are parts of it where they can just, let's say, save for game day. And he is, I had high expectations for him, and I know that you did too, Shane, but I would be lying to you if I said that he didn't even exceed these. I did not expect he would be leading the country in yards from scrimmage. I hope that I'm not offending Ashton with that, because I had a lot of confidence in him, but to be number one in the country is something else. Even Eric McAllister, we were talking with him this week, Shane, and he just kind of subtly dabbled the word Heisman a couple of times when we were talking about Ashton. And, that seems like it's a lot. I'm not going to lie, but if he keeps this up and Boise State can get hot and go on a run, he deserves to be on at least a long list of consideration, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for him, obviously, practice turns into a line and a sign more than a line of sign and execution, not so much of necessarily going 100%. It's just making sure he's going to the right places, because when he gets in the game, if he's going to the right spot, we know he's going to take care of the rest.
So 27 touches, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. We love comparisons in the sports broadcast industry. Bush Hamdan, his offensive coordinator, has been all over the country. He's coached at high-level college football, Power 5 programs. He's been in the NFL. This week, I was curious who Ashton reminded him of, and it was a pretty talented back that he had during his time in Atlanta.
Yeah, super impressed. He reminds you of some of those NFL backs. I joke around sometimes. We had Devontae Freeman, I think, in 2017 in Atlanta, and at times you didn't question the toughness from that guy. It was almost like, hey, man, you got to protect yourself a little bit more. But he's got that make-you-miss ability. We're fortunate to have had the backs we had at Washington when I was there, and he certainly can play with those guys for sure.
I think that's a pretty good comparison, at least when you look at him on paper, right? Devontae Freeman, 5'8", 206 pounds. That's almost exactly what Ashton Jeanty is currently checking in at. But he's a guy that's rushed for almost 5,000 yards in his NFL career, 38 touchdowns and 15 and 16. Freeman went over 1,000 yards with double-digit touchdowns running for the Falcons. That's a pretty awesome comparison. Not only, well, it's a complimentary one, but it's definitely one you want to be in, because Freeman's been around in the league for a little while and made quite a bit of money. And I thought Freeman was a little bit bigger than that, but man, you go back and you look, I'm like, that's a pretty good comparison. Shane, what do you think?
Yep, short stature, able to stay low to the ground. The good thing is when you're a shorter back like that, you don't take a ton of hits at the knees.
Yeah.
Which when you have those bigger backs, that's typically, they're gonna get tackled really low and those kind of. Well, and I don't know if you've noticed, but Ashton tends to hurdle quite a bit and jump quite a bit, because if guys ever do it, he's jumping. So yeah, I think I prefer all day to be a shorter back and built that way than being one of the taller backs.
Yeah, that's the thing that's just crazy about Ashton, is like his feel for the game, his instincts, his awareness. I mean, you see him stiff arming guys, and then, as you said, like then a guy tries to dive at his legs because he is so hard to bring down. His center of gravity is so low, and then he just jumps over and hurdles them, and then picks up another 5 yards before somebody finally crashes into him and brings him down. I will say this too. This is the world we live in college football these days. I hope they can keep him, because there are no doubt going to be people watching him at bigger programs with a lot of money. And I don't fault him at all, whatever he decides to do one day. And that's probably a discussion that we save for another day. But Boise State obviously needs to have some forward thinking with this one and make sure that they're taking care of one of the premier players in college football. He might not be the only one they got to figure out a way to take care of either. Shane, obviously, Taylor's driving around a truck. They figured out a way to kind of help him out. The next guy after those two is Eric McAllister. He is, without a doubt, wide receiver number 1 now. They moved him around a little bit once again against San Diego State. I want to begin talking a little bit about what shows me his game is growing a little bit. So he had a couple of really nice spin moves when they were throwing kind of hot off the line of scrimmage to him, and he picked up first downs both times he did it. And I just thought that was pretty impressive, and it shows that he still can make another step. Like not only can he make another step, but he has the ability to make the other step. We've seen him go up in high point balls. We've seen him run past people, or like run away from people, but now he's starting to make moves and pick up yak yards, which if he can continue to do that, he becomes the complete package at wide receiver. What do you think about EMAC's performance against the Aztecs?
Obviously, like you said, he's trending up. But what I think is what we're seeing is the game is beginning to slow down. So I'm sure if you go back and look at his high school highlights, he was doing all those spin moves and all those kind of things in high school. But, you start playing college football and everything's moving fast.
Right.
You don't have that much time to do spin moves. You turn around and you're already getting hit. But now, because he's getting a feel for it, he's getting more catches every week, he's getting comfortable. He's understanding that when I catch that hitch, they might attack my inside or outside shoulder. So I know if I just spin after catching, if I spin the opposite direction, that's going to allow them to only attack half of a man. And he's big enough and strong enough to run through that. So now he's able to pick up another 10, 15 yards. And so it's just all repetition. And
That's
so
funny
he's kind of reverting back.
It's funny that you actually brought up kind of how he was as a player in high school. This week I asked Eric where he got that spin move from, and it was something he took from his past and implemented in the present. Take a listen.
I used it in high school. There's a Pacific game. I used it more than once. South Hills, my junior year. That's really where my spin move came from.
Green out in the flat to McAllister, made the catch, the 28, sheds a tackler, has the first down, and gets out of bounds at the 16. Nice play.
I think it would keep DBs on their toes, not just being a guy that can just catch the ball and go down. I think it keeps DBs honest, knowing that they got to actually try and tackle me.
So Eric, 5 catches, 90 yards. There was also another play in the game from just outside the red zone that we have actually kind of maybe brought up a couple of times. I'll give you credit. You brought it up. Eric moved around quite a bit in that University of Washington game, lining up in the slot. Didn't do it so much in the middle games, but against San Diego State, I know that he at least did it once, and he got a matchup that he liked, Shane. It's a matchup that Boise State is going to win more often than not.
2nd down and 7 from the 26-yard line. Dubar behind Green in the pistol. Green gets the snap, fakes it to Dubar, throwing it long left side as McAllister there, over the shoulder catch, touchdown, Eric McAllister, touchdown, Boise State, 26 yards on the pass play from Taylon Green.
I love the fact that we finally took a page out of our opponent's book and how they beat us. Washington put, their big, fast receivers in the slot and allow them to attack safeties. So guess what? We can do the same thing. Put our big, fast receivers in the slot and allow them to attack safeties. And that's going to be a win almost every time if you have that guy running down the field on a safety.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was Eric or Taylon that said they call it church in terms of the success of that play. But a beautiful ball, beautiful catch, great play execution. I think a lot of things we talk about is the pre-snap, read, and it all connected on that play, looked rather effortless. And it was a big play in the game. Boise State needed a spark like that. And it's not only that they needed an offensive spark, they needed something in the passing game to give them some confidence. And that was another downfield throw, a 25-yard grab that did seem to give them, a little bit of confidence. So, Eric continues to grow each week. Sure, he didn't, he had more receiving yards the week before against North Dakota, but you're upwards of 250 yards combined receiving over the last two games for EMAC, who is really starting to become dynamic. And you can just tell the way he carries himself now that he is really starting to feel probably confident too. And so I see, him continuing to chase 1,000 yards. It's been a moment since Boise State has had 1,000-yard wide receiver. And so he's a guy that you feel like definitely could, threaten that threshold this fall. It does come down to the guy throwing him the football too. And we, I said off the top here, talking about the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, when it comes to Taylon Green. And we'll start positive because that's just I'm a positive guy. I have a tough time critiquing people, to be honest with you. But, you look at the end of the game and the plays that he made, Shane, they Boise State's trying to ice the game away with a lead, and if they go down and score a touchdown, you feel like that lead balloons to 10 and it's all but over. And you figured San Diego State was gonna be crashing hard on Ashton. So what does Taylon do? He pulls the ball, picks up 9 yards. Eventually Boise State moves the chains on that play, and then later on, he pulls it again. It looks like he's going to get caught in the backfield, but we see his extreme athleticism shake out of a play, and then his long legs and his speed was able to beat, the San Diego State defense to the sideline to move the chains again. And he just made some winning plays down the stretch, Shane. And the moment certainly didn't seem too big for him in that occasion.
Yeah, I hate to beat the dead horse, but we've said it multiple times. They've got to get him a little bit more involved in the run game.
Right.
And we've got to see him run more. And because if he does that, it's going to allow him to have more success in the pass game, where everyone, feels right now it's a little iffy, it's a little shaky. Let's also remember he has not started a full season yet. We're getting there, but he's still seeing things. Things are still coming out of him like bullets right now. It's not totally slowed down yet. So you really have to look at him as a freshman as far as how many games he's played. But if they can continue to have him involved in the run game how they did, and then he can continue to make plays in the run game, defenses now have to say, we got to send maybe an extra guy. That's one less guy in the pass game. Now things open up a little bit more. Windows are a little bit larger. It's just all a game within a game. So he's just got to stay on track with this, and they've got to keep him involved in the run game.
It feels like his time's coming though. The big run. It feels like we are so close to seeing it happen. And with Ashton Jeanty's success, is it the chicken or the egg argument here? But with teams taking away, some of the perimeter stuff from Taylon, well, that loosens up the box a little bit, right? So some of those between the tackle runs become, I don't want to say easier, because I certainly don't want to be running through 300-pound, dudes, but it does become a little easier. And so now that Ashton's having all his success, maybe all of a sudden, it's pick your poison, and maybe all of a sudden Taylon can actually keep one. And and go for a big one on the outside there. Right? It feels like it's a matter of time before one of those runs is coming, given the success of Ashton Jeanty. Overall, though, Talon finishes 12 of 22, 162 yards. He has a pair of touchdowns, one rushing, one passing, and he was also efficient with his legs. I do got to bring up a couple of plays, and I love to pick your brain on stuff like this, Shane, because you've been in these players' shoes before and you have great knowledge of the game. So I texted you a couple of plays after the game, and it was some low red zone stuff for the Boise State football team. And, within one series down in the low red zone, there were kind of a couple of miscues. You go back and you say that, we all know Talon's immensely talented and has an unbelievably bright future, but he is still young. And I think we saw a little bit of his youth maybe on that low red zone possession. So on one of them, it looked like he had a read where it was designed to hit EMAC really quick. And, he hesitated for just a second. And then I'm guessing he probably felt like, well, I don't want to turn the ball over in the low red, because that's the only thing worse than make you taking a sack or throwing the ball away or whatever. So he hesitates for a second, rolls out, throws an incompletion. And then 2 plays later, turns the wrong way on a run to Breezy Dubar. Just kind of a tough little stretch there, I would say, for Boise State's young but very promising quarterback.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, once again, the reps and just the FBI, the football intelligence with it. I know the average person doesn't understand it as well as, the players, but in the red zone, the defense has the advantage because they don't have a lot of field to defend. So everything's condensed. So on the flip side, Talon has to understand that everything is happening faster. You can't wait 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, because let's say it's a go route, your guy is probably going to be almost out of bounds because it's not far to go. So everything's going to happen faster. So going through your progression has to happen faster. Looking at, the guys who are supposed to get the ball, everything just is going to happen faster. And so I feel like he's still moving at the pace of being at midfield when he's in the red zone. And so you can see that on that clip. He's a little late when the guy's open, but now he's open and it's not looking as good as it did if he hit him maybe a second before. So, it's a game of inches, and, being late is tough. You do not want to throw the ball late.
Yeah. And especially in the red zone. How do you get better at that? Because you're right. I mean, it is, the windows are tighter. You don't, the way that you phrased it too, it's like, yeah, if you want to throw something to the corner, it's like you snap it and you got to throw it, because if you wait a second and a half, 2 seconds, the guy's going to be out of bounds. You're not going to have a shot. So how hard is it to speed that up?
And I'm sure they'll work it more, especially with, some of those hiccups coming in the red zone. You do an actual red zone period during practice. And so now you're getting live reps at being in the red zone and understanding, all right, things got to happen quick. They only call certain plays in the red zone. So now, on these plays that my progression has to be faster. My feet have to be faster. I have to get set up quicker, so that way I can use my hips and throw the ball and all these things. So it's just, programming it in your mind. And then now, maybe next year, this time, this isn't even a thought, it's just second nature from all the reps.
Now he's got to come out quite a ways from Boise, but a little closer to home, and take on the Memphis Tigers. We are going to get to that preview here in just a second. But over on the defensive side of the ball, you look at the scoreboard, it says 31 points. You would probably love if Boise State was able to, prevent San Diego State from getting in the end zone at the end of the game. But yeah, hey, they won the game. They did what they needed to do. Tackling has to be a huge emphasis of practice this week. Andy Avalos said that it would, so they're going to have to do that better when they take on the Memphis Tigers on Saturday. But, overall, they played a lot of bodies, man, and they showed some of the development of their youth that's coming along. Jaden Virgin played quite a few snaps in that game. Marco Notriani continues to make an impact. Same with Andrew Simpson. And I think their depth at linebacker is going to, potentially be even more tested, because we saw DJ Schramm out there. Can't tell you how many times they had to rip that guy off the field, like literally peel him off the field. He missed the North Dakota game due to injury, comes back and plays against San Diego State. It didn't appear like he was moving, like DJ typically moves. And like I said, saw him down a number of times, and then after the game, he's walking off the field with almost a heartbroken look on his face, and he's rocking a pretty big sling over his I think it was his left arm. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But that is a guy that this defense needs, and it's unfortunate. So the best you can sum up his impact to this defense.
So obviously he's a guy that he's the leader. He's the guy that we saw it last year all year, and this year when he's been on the field, he's on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously a tough break, and which means now other guys, have to step up and do, cover that extra percentage of not having that guy on the field because, you got young guys coming up behind him. But as a defense as a whole this week, fundamentals have to be the focus. I mean, like you said, tackling was a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it felt like the San Diego State quarterback was just as athletic as Taylor when he was running around because he was causing a lot of missed tackles. So that, and then just little things, even in the DB room. I mean, the first touchdown, I think it was,
Rodney came so close, man. It looked like he passed the ball in the air. Like it looked like he had it, man. And somehow it just barely snuck by him.
The worst part about that is fundamentally they teach you to hook and swat. He swatted, and the reason you hook with the left and swat with the right in that predicament is because if you miss the swat, you have the tackle on the hook. But we aren't, doing everything. That's kind of day one stuff for DBs. If you're gonna break on a ball, you got to protect yourself. So if you miss that swat, you got the hook, so you still make the tackle. We don't hook. We just go for the swat. And exactly what happens if you miss that swat and you go for it, the guy turns around. There's no one left, and it's an easy touchdown.
Yeah, he was so close. I feel like it's going to happen for Rodney soon. Like I really do. He's been close a couple times this year, never more so than last week. And we talk about the razor's edge these guys live on, man. And it was so close to a pick. Instead, it's 6 going the other direction, and they rebounded from it, and they'll be fine. But getting back to that linebacker position again, you've seen Marco Notriani step up. He was kind of in and out of the game at times too last week. Andrew Simpson has proven to be a really dynamic player, I think, and he's coming on, man. Like he's only a sophomore. He's going to be outstanding, or I should say, this is only his second year on campus at Boise State. He's going to be outstanding. And outside of those two, you look and there's one kind of quiet true freshman that we haven't really talked about so far that's playing a lot. Chase Martin, number 51, is getting a lot of special team snaps, plays on kickoff and kick return. If you look at the freshmen that are likely going to burn their red shirt, not burn their red shirt this year, but not utilize it, they can use it another year if they want. You have Troy Wilkie, the true freshman walk-on that just continues to find a way to get on the football field. Had a nice block that sprung Caden Dudley on a big kickoff return last week. But so you have Troy Wilkie. You have Breezy Dubar, who, I mean, he's so talented, and their depth in that room is being tested in a manner that they have to have him play right now. And then outside of those two, a guy that we've talked a lot about is Ty Benefield. So you're looking at those 4 true freshmen when you throw in Chase Martin as the core 4 of this most recent recruiting class, that it looks like they're going to be full go. And now when you look at the depth that's being tested at linebacker, Chase, it might not be long before he is now playing on defense in addition to what he does on special teams. Shane, it's, I'm not saying offense is easier, but in this case, it kind of is. And the reason why is when you're an offensive player, as we've talked about with Breezy and we've talked about with Prince, you can put them in very specific positions that you feel like they will succeed. But if you're thrown out there as a true freshman on defense, man, for the most part, there is no really safeguarding you. Like you got to do it all, and you got to do it all well at a very early age in order to find the field as a true freshman on defense. Would you say that's right?
I can almost agree with that one.
You're an offensive player. Don't you coach defense now, though?
Yeah, I do. I coach both. I'm on both sides. So, I actually use the, believe it or not, I use the clip of Rodney, because this week with my DBs, we've worked hook and swat all week. And so I use that as an example of why we make sure we hook. But going back to that is, I say yes, for defense, it's a little harder, because offensively, we know what we're going to do. We know the play before. We practice it all week. Defensively, you know what scheme you're going to run, right? Based off of all the offensive plays you've seen throughout the year from this team. Well, obviously the way football works is we're going to come out with new things that you haven't seen. So now, as a defender, a freshman at this, you've never seen this on film. You've never practiced it.
Mm-hmm.
Where the heck do you go? Where do you line up? How do you adjust to something you've never seen before? So on offense, there is no unknown. We know what we're going to do no matter what, the way you line up to this. We're going to do what we're going to do.
Right.
We have our rules. But then on the defensive side, they could come out in a whole new formation that you've never seen or practiced. And so it could throw you off, which defense can also come out and do the same thing to an offense. But that's still, if I'm a receiver and my route is a post, I'm still running a post. So it's not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
So things can get if you're pattern reading on defense and, you have certain rules and you never had you never had certain route combinations come at you, it can throw some things for a loop.
Right. Well, next up for Boise State is a matchup that I absolutely love. And a big reason why is because this is like the battle of the premier programs that are left in the group of five, right? You go back to that week 2 matchup against UCF, who, the Knights have since elevated to the Power 5, but you still felt like there was some tension, from them battling as group of 5 programs for so long. And now you still have that feeling with the Memphis Tigers. The Tigers are good, man. They rolled out of the season 3-1. Their one loss was at a neutral site last week against Missouri. But you like what they're doing. They're big, man. They're physical. They had an offense that can go, a running back that might kind of actually remind you of the one lining up for Boise State in terms of his versatility. This will not be an easy game for the Broncos, Shane.
No, and I mean, even if you look at the guys that have came through that program, you got guys like Paxton Lynch, Tony Pollard, Dorland Dorsey. It's like they always have dudes and they always have speed. And it's going to be for sure a challenge for us. It's going to be a lot like the UCF game for us.
Yeah. Their running back is no joke. He's got over 340 yards rushing. He's also really good at catching the ball. And one of their leading receivers, he might be their leading receiver in terms of just receptions, but not necessarily receiving yards. And they've got to figure out a way to contain him. And Boise State has to prove that they went back into the lab and are going to be a better tackling team, because these guys won't be easy to tackle. They will have another challenge this week in order to bring the ball carrier down. If Boise State can get this one and complete the month of September at 3-2, given the difficulty of their schedule, considering Mountain West games are all that's left, I think they roll into the rest of the season with a ton of confidence, Shane.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of momentum if we can knock these guys off. And we need that right now. Obviously, where we're at, it's a big turning point here. We can either be 3-2 or 2-3. And so it's going to be big. We need this. We got to keep the steam that we created, through San Diego State to get through this one.
And certainly
this team is a lot better than San Diego State.
Right. And it's certainly early in the season. I know there's a lot of games left to speculate too much, but if you leave September 3-2, there's still basically everything is still at least somewhat on the table, right? You might not control your destiny as much as you would hoped, but a lot is still on the table. If you leave it 2-3, then you're basically chasing a Mountain West Conference championship to define your season. And the peak really kind of seems like you're looking at the LA Bowl as a Mountain West Conference champ. If you leave 3-2, there's potentially a little bit more to that. So Shane, really quick, give me your prediction.
I'm looking at 30, 35, 31. Good guys.
Okay, good guys, because we don't believe in the bad guys, right?
Can never predict that one. Can never do that.
Oh, Shane, it's been fun, man. I know this has been a little bit different this week. I had to get out to Memphis a little bit earlier than I wanted to, and I know you had some obligations too. But as always, man, it's fun, and I'll meet you back in the KTVB studios next week, okay?
Alrighty.
All right, Bronco Roundup Game Day Show, a special edition actually this week. It's 6 to 7 o'clock Mountain Time on Friday evening. Then we'll have a digital-only show that airs an hour leading up to kickoff live from the Liberty Bowl. Shane, I appreciate it. Once again, this is Jay's Sports Bar, serving the Idaho sports community.